Welcome to the first episode of the Art of Lifting podcast. I am really excited to finally be able to launch this. This is something I've wanted to do for such a long time now. My name is Sian Arterton, for anyone that doesn't know. I am a powerlifter here in the UK. I compete within British Powerlifting, which is the UK's IPF affiliate. I have been competing in the sport since 2018. I am also a coach, so I coach both powerlifting and nutrition. I regularly referee and volunteer at meets. I have hosted a meet in the past, and on top of all of that, I'm honestly just a massive fan of the sport. So I wanted to create this podcast as an open conversation-based podcast where we can talk about all things lifting related. It is predominantly going to be powerlifting related, but I did want to keep the door open by naming it the Art of Lifting rather than the Art of Powerlifting. Yeah, just keep that door open for other conversations around the world of lifting that aren't necessarily powerlifting focused. I already have some amazing guests lined up, so it's not going to just be me talking every time. I am going to have guests on weekly. That is the plan. I've already got some amazing guests lined up. The plan is to talk about loads of different topics. It's not going to be just top level athletes coming on and chatting to me. I also want to talk to people around training, programming, nutrition, recovery, injury management, rehab, sports psychology, any topic you can think of that relates to lifting in some way. I want this podcast to be a place for conversations around that. So I'm really excited. I'm not going to chat too much. I want to get into this episode because the first guest, I don't think I could have got a better first guest for this podcast. Her name is Aquinn. She's GB's top ranked 84 plus lifter. She currently holds the British total record, the British deadlift record. She's a phenomenal lifter. She's also a phenomenal person. And I'm really excited to share this with you all. So let's just jump into the episode. Welcome to the Art of Lifting podcast. Just to kick the episode off, did you want to just kind of introduce yourself a little bit?
So hello everyone, thank you for watching. My name's Aquinn. I am a powerlifter in the 84 plus category.
Okay, so first question I wanted to ask you is how long you've been in powerlifting, because I went on your open powerlifting and I was actually really surprised how little time you've been in the sport. Like it's been a few years, but you haven't actually competed a lot. So I thought we'd maybe just jump into how you got into powerlifting and kind of a bit of the journey so far.
So I would say this year would be, should I say 3 years or two and a bit? I'm not too sure because my first competition was in 2022. We're in 2024. I'm just doing the 2+2 maths. So how I got into powerlifting was I moved to Luton just around COVID time. And around that time, it was just me being in and out of gym. I was training before that, but when I moved to a new area, I was still getting used to the area, still trying to find myself, find if I'm still on training. And obviously, you know, when COVID came about, there was like a lot of the gyms are open. Now they're closed, the gyms are open. It was very much a back and forth. So I think it was the second to last time before they said that the gyms were going to close again. I said to myself, when the gyms open again, I'm going to start training consistently again. So I made that vow to myself, I would say in 2020. Yeah, 2020. The gyms opened again, and then I was training for about a good 4 or 5 months. And then I started training at LMS. So that's another gym in Luton. Yeah. Whilst I was in LMS, I was introduced to powerlifting by a member that was there. He invited me to attend a competition at the Atlas Gym, that's in Milton Keynes. And I will always give a big shout out to Snush Performance, because if I didn't attend his competition, I would never known about powerlifting. So his one was a local meet. I did that at the time. I did 2 of these local meets in the same year. And then in 2022, I then signed up for the IPF and did my first competition, which was All England's at the time, which is now Manchester Open. Yeah.
I saw that earlier. I saw so your first comp was like an East Midlands Ladies Classic. With a 430 total, and then 3 months later, All England's, second place at your first All England's with a 491 total.
That was a good jump.
Is a crazy jump for your first 3 months competing at like British powerlifting comps.
That first competition was interesting as well, because obviously going from like the local meet, it wasn't obviously as strict as when you go into a normal competition. So I think I've got like 7 to 9 lifts, not locking up my back and not squatting to depth, which has been an issue for me, but it was an experience, and here I am still today. So
yeah, I mean, you obviously learned from it. I think you missed 2 squats in that first like registered comp on open powerlifting, and then your second comp, I think you missed your opener, but you got the next year and you squatted 180 at your first now. That's crazy.
Thank you.
I would definitely also want to touch on your first British that you also won, which I didn't know until today, which is crazy. Your first British, which was what, just over a year into competing at like actual affiliated comps.
Yeah.
How was your first British? Was that the one in Scotland?
No, that was in Nottingham Strong.
Yeah,
that's Nottingham Strong gym. To be honest with you, funny enough, since British is coming up again, I didn't actually enjoy that competition. Obviously, as women, PMS at the time, it was just horrible. So I didn't know, to be honest, I didn't know what to expect at that competition, because I did also have, what's that podcast? Sabado's podcast. So they were chatting, right? They were chatting, and obviously at the time we had Charlie Chester on the list. We had Claire as well. So we had some big names, and being new to the sport, I wasn't really aware of who these women were at the time. So I think at the time they put me to come like 4th or 5th. Obviously someone sent me the podcast and I heard that bit and I was like, okay, cool, you know. And then when I went into competition, I actually did not know what to expect. I just went there and I did the best that I could. And then I turned out coming first. But overall, my experience, I actually didn't like my performance in the comp. I'll be honest with you. I didn't like my performance just because I know that I could have done better. And I think, okay, obviously I know we're going to talk about it, but up until Manchester Open, I feel like I had competitions where I would do so much better in training compared to being at the day of the comp. And I think that was a very big, you do better in training. But yeah, just learned from it, still took the first, which I was very, very happy about. And then now for this year, it's about going in with much more knowledge and trying to keep the title. So
yeah, no, we'll definitely touch. We'll kind of go in chronological order, and we'll definitely touch more and stuff as well. Because I know you've got your Girl City Fitness, like you do your little reels and stuff, don't you? And you kind of vlog on there. And I remember listening to you talk about the most recent Manchester Open. It was kind of like a revelation meet in how you approached it, mindset and everything. But I also think we have to touch on Manchester Open, the first ever Manchester Open last year, because this was the first comp where I kind of got to know you and learned who you were. And it was because of your deadlift at the end, which I stand by the fact that you have not been given enough credit for that performance at all.
Thank you.
I've said this to this day. I think for the level you are in British powerlifting, I do think you're probably one of the most underrated for the level that you are, and you definitely deserve more credit. But I definitely want to touch on that first Manchester Open, where you pulled the biggest female deadlift in British powerlifting history at the time. I think it's been broken, but you nearly took it back again this year.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a huge 251 kilo pull.
Yeah.
How did you find Manchester Open that year?
To be honest with you, I went into the competition, I was happy. I was just happy to be there. I was excited. So going into the competition, I was happy to be there. I was excited. And overall, the competition, once again, if we're touching on squats, I missed my first squat in that competition. But because I was so excited to be there, I didn't let that take me. And it just ended up being a really good comp. Northwest hosts really, really good competitions. So, you know, when you're like waiting for your day to come up and you're looking at like the reels and people posting, you're like, oh my gosh, you know, my day's coming up. And the layout, the way they made it seem, it was just an honor to be on that stage itself. And then obviously I had a plan. And to be honest with you, the plan was at 251, if I'm honest with you. A couple of people came up to me before the comp started, like about 15 minutes before comp started. And they were like, what, you're going to take back, you're going to take the deadlift? You're going to take the deadlift total? And I was like, I don't know, whatever the day plans out. I was actually meant to hit 249. Yeah, 245. Yeah. Because what I normally do when going into like comps is I give myself a bracket for what I'm going to do. I try not to stick at an exact number just so I don't disappoint myself and just because of any externals that might come up. And And so obviously as the day was going on, it was flowing, got to second attempt, and Big C, my coach at the time, he was like, what, go for 251, yeah? And I was like, 245, 249, no, 245? 295.
I think your second attempt was 245. You opened at 235.
235, 245. So I wanted to stay at I didn't want to go over 250. Basically, I just remember I just didn't want to go over 250. And he was like, nah, man, 251. He wrote that down. I didn't even have a say. And then I ended up pulling it. So yeah, it happened to work in my favor. I did what I could and I got it up. So yeah, took that record for the day. It only lasted for about like 2 weeks, and then Errol snatched it back. So yeah,
it still happened.
yeah.
Huge deadlift. And that gave you what, a 561 total?
561 total, yeah, which broke the English record, not the British at the time. Yeah,
because I think, isn't the British record in the 84 plus quite high, and it's been there for quite a few years? Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, I think about 4 years. I only found out this year from this comp, but yeah, that was there for a while.
Yeah, I think I found out from the live stream of watching your comp because they were talking about it. All right, so went from there to your first international, Western Euros. Yeah. How was that?
So, Western Euros, to be invited to a competition, once again, I was really excited to be invited. I got told like about, I would say like just after. No, I got told in July, actually. I got told in July. I remember I was on holiday at the time I got told. Decided that I wanted to do it. Tried to figure out how I'm going to be able to do Manchester Open and then fade into going into do Western Euros. So that was a task in itself because of how you have to train.
Sprints, I think, isn't it? Like a month apart?
Yeah, it was like a month apart. Yeah. There wasn't much time. So went in there, I was excited. Once again, that was a competition where I had to learn a very, very big learning curve. I think they were a bit too strict, but I guess I guess I can't really say that too tough in it. I just take the game as the game is. But I got lower than I did at Manchester Open. So I mean, it was just an experience. All I could take that as an experience. I actually was invited to go again this year, to be honest, and I declined to go just because I wanted to focus on British. I didn't want to make the same mistake as last year. So yeah, just the experience that comp was really truly. Iceland's expensive. Let me just add that on. Very expensive.
I mean, it's a good holiday.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I don't think you could turn down your first international invite. I think that's an experience you have to take. You've obviously learned from it. And yeah, like this year you decided other things were more important. I think that's a really big thing with like British powerlifting, especially with the rise of it at the moment. British nationals seems a bit more prestigious than a lot of these, like, I want to say lower level international. But I genuinely think a lot of people do turn down invites to Western Euros or even Commonwealth because they would rather focus on performing higher at British and put all their effort into British. I know a few of the 76 girls turned down Commonwealth this year where they would have probably won, if not come second, because they would rather put all of their eggs into the British and just really focus on placing as high as possible there. And I think that's become quite a common thing with the rise of British powerlifting. It's just such a prestigious.
Do you not think that nationals should be held at a? Oh my gosh, it's nationals at a higher standard compared to these other comps anyway.
I mean, I definitely do think it should be regarded highly, like 100%. And to be honest with myself, like I've got Commonwealth in 3.5 weeks. I care more about British, which is 6 weeks after. But I don't think that's the way it should be. I think internationals really of any level should be seen as higher. But it just depends on the competition that turns up. Like if our nationals has more competition than Commonwealth or Western Euros, I'm going to try harder at British.
Yeah. But yeah, congratulations for being picked to go to Commonwealth as well. Yeah, I know that competition. I watched your comp as well. That was a techie one. How did you feel being chosen to go? Is it South Africa you're going to?
For South Africa, I knew that unless I had a pretty terrible day with the progress I made, I would have been picked for Commonwealth. Like there was one girl that was pretty close to me, but I know I'd progressed a lot since I last competed against her. And I knew she'd been injured and stuff a lot over the past year. So I kind of knew that as long as I didn't have an awful day at English, I would be selected. I didn't think I was going to say yes to the invite.
Okay.
Because again, I thought I would rather focus on British. But then the invite came through and I was like, this is the first year they're doing an English team singlet, which I definitely wanted.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I quite like the idea of a holiday in South Africa.
Yeah, and that's nice.
There you go. And I've only done one international, which was in 2019 Commonwealth. And I said to myself, I want to get back on the international stage either this year or next.
Okay.
One, I might as well do Commonwealth. I'm kind of treating it like a fun comp more than a really serious international, but I think that will actually serve me better.
Yeah.
And I'll probably get a higher total from doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's just going to be fun. I still think I care more about British, but I actually have a higher chance of podiuming at Commonwealth than I do British, I think. So it's just a bit of a weird thing. But I also like the challenge of competing 6 weeks apart because I've not done that before.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
And then next year I'll actually try and plan things properly.
Yeah. Your trainer's going well though. I've been watching you. You've been doing your thing as well. So hopefully
getting there.
Big at Commonwealth as well.
We'll see. I would like to at least get a couple of medals for individual lifts, if nothing else.
Yeah.
We'll see. It'll be fun either way. And I get to go on a safari and I get to go to the water park.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. So your next comp is a comp that I would love to do. I know this is like bucket list comp for me. Arnold's. Talk me through Arnold's.
Yeah.
Talk me through Arnold's.
Yeah. Arnold's. I don't think I went into Arnold's great. In terms of mentally, I was excited to be there. My parents came down. I trained as well. In that process, I was also moving houses as well. But I made sure to get my training done. In fact, the first day I moved into my house, just dumped everything in the living room, and we went to sign up for the gym and went to train. So I was serious about training. I always have been since that promise I made. But I think what took me was, as you said, taking comp a bit too seriously, a bit too to the head can mess you up. And I think that's what happened at Arnold's. So because I knew it was such a big stage, and mind you, before I started powerlifting, I'd seen people compete at Arnold's. I'd seen that Arnold's was really big. So then I think in that comp, I had very, very big imposter syndrome, so big, which made me feel like, oh my gosh, you've only done what, about, is it 4 or 5 competitions? And you're here with what? These ladies that have been doing this for years. Like, do you think you've got what it takes? Once again, I still went in. I still did what I needed to do. And one of my biggest goals for Arnold's, actually, because I looked at the competition list, was to come top 10, and I hit that. And I also went over 100 GL points as well. So there was a lot of ticks for that competition. I think Arnold's was the turning point for the next competition, because I didn't want to go down like that again. So Arnold's was a really good experience. I think also why I really enjoyed Arnold's is because I think I got to show my mum what the training I've been doing does, because she was so skeptical about powerlifting. Obviously I have a lot of my family members watching me and, showing her, sending her videos of me. And the first thing is like, oh my gosh, is that going to hurt you? And African parents, they take it too far, they'll be talking too tough. But her coming out and seeing the audience and seeing the impact of it, she rated it. From then on, I think she just there was just a little bit more respect on my name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like Arnold's, all of these competitions till today I've taken something from, and I think that makes me a better athlete, because I take, even if it's the littlest things, I take it for the next. And I think it's just going to build me up. Once again, I've not been here for so long, but I've got so much experience based on the competitions I've done, which I'm happy about. And I think that's just going to make me the better athlete for the next competition. So yeah, it was an experience, but I'm happy to be on that stage. And hopefully I get invited again and I won't disappoint next time. So yeah.
Yeah, no, the lineup was incredible this year, especially the women's side. So impossible to make sense. But like, you deserve to be there. You prove you deserve to be there. You placed top 10. That's,
yeah.
Especially at Arnold's, like with that lineup they had this year. That's not an easy thing to do. I also really like what you said about, you kind of got thrown in the deep end with the level you started at. Like, you started with so much talent already, and obviously all the work you've put in. You are competing at such a high level as still a pretty new lifter.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be easy to navigate. but because you're taking little lessons every single time, like people perform so much worse at such a lower level. Like you've come in at a decent level and you're just learning with every single one, and you're remembering the lessons as well, which I think
definitely
really important. Really important. So the next comp is your most recent comp. I can't believe we've gone through all of your comps already.
I know it. Literally, that's all I have. Literally, I think it's 7 comps. How many's on there on Open Powerlifting?
7, including Manchester Open this year. You've got 7.
There we go. Yeah.
But like I said, you've learned so much from each of them anyway.
Yeah.
And they are getting better. You're learning more every time. And I think Manchester Open this year was, would you say, your best meet to date?
My best meet today. I think everything was just, even down to the music I was listening to was just tick. Yeah, best meet today. I really wanted to. It was more about proving things to myself, and that's one thing I loved about this comp. It wasn't really much about who's around or where I'm even going to place, and that's just the honest truth. I think last year was when they introduced the cash funds, prizes and stuff.
Yeah.
So when I found out about that, I was like, okay, let me see if I can do something. But this year, obviously, they told us about breaking records, but it was mainly about me getting myself right, because I plan to be on bigger stages, or I plan to take my journey to bigger places. I need to be right. Without the great mental health or being on the right stage, you're gonna always mess up. So this comp solidified that for me, I would say. Yeah,
definitely. I think learning how, because everyone is so different with how they need to be mentally on comp day. Like I know for myself, I'm not competitively driven. I'm competitive with myself, but if I focus on anyone else, it's just going to mess me up mentally. My best comps are when I essentially just treat it like a training day, when I'm just hanging out with people, whoever's handling me, I just chat shit with the entire day, and that's literally my best comps every single time. And I think everyone takes a while to learn how they should be. I think when you first start, a lot of people think they need to be super serious on comp day or super intense. And it works for some people, but it doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah.
I know you said, I think on your like your vlogs you did on your Instagram, you said about how like you kind of just had your headphones in the whole session. Am I right?
Pretty much most of the time, yeah. Pretty much. It was, I basically mimicked how I'd be on a training day. Literally. And compared to like other comps, I'm trying to listen to other conversations. I'm probably even trying to force a conversation. I'm either standing watching the board, and I think it distracts me. I guess it puts me in that competitive feel, which I know we're at a competition, but I just want to feel like I'm just going to lift. And being in the state where I had my headphones in and I was just kind of like focused on myself or how I feel, my vibe, that brought out the best in me. After the comp was done, I'm pretty much, hey guys, what's up? Like nothing's happened. But in that moment, I was really zoned out. And to be honest with you, it might change. When I'm on my 15th comp, it might change. I might have a different approach to things. But I think being a new lifter in the deep end, that's what I have to do at the moment. I have to zone out, be in my own world. Hopefully it does change. It might not. But for now, I've seen from Manchester Open, it works for me. So yeah.
589 total. What, just over 2 years in the sport? Coming up to 2.5 years in the sport?
Yeah.
Do you know what the British record total is off your head? If not, I can load it up. I know you were close to that, weren't you? Because they were talking about it on the live stream.
No, so the British record was 579.
Oh, okay.
Plus, so I broke the British record at Manchester Open for the 84 plus, to my knowledge.
Oh yeah, of course you did. That's why they were talking about, because it was long standing before that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then you broke it on your second. No, it must have been your first.
It was second? On my. I believe it was my first.
Well, anyway, I think because you dropped 5.9. Yeah.
Yeah. So
was that your, other than the deadlift, that's your first British total record, isn't it? Yeah.
First British total record. Yeah.
How did that feel?
That felt good. The pressures of Big C already knowing what records as what, or what's there, or what's, him letting me know, like, that's been standing for years, it's a big thing, and then you've got like a lot of supportive people in the community, like messaging you, telling you you've got this, or whether it's just a comment on your post or a message in your DMs, you know, it gives you a bit more confidence to be able to, you know, achieve that. Breaking the record was amazing. It was amazing. I was so grateful. Obviously, I'm hoping to extend the record. I did try to touch the 600 total, but for what it was, I took that 591? I took that 591, and I was happy with it.
Yeah, I think 589, but yeah,
589.
You had more in the tank. You took a big jump to your third deadlift for that 600.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
With that, you then started with a new coach, I believe.
I did, yeah. So I already had in mind. I had in mind that I was going to go for a new coach. That was always in the back of my mind. And a lot of people ask me, "Oh, you know, why?" You know, even he asked me, "You know, you've been working so well with Big C, so why the change?" I've been with Big C as a coach since I ever started in the gym. That's over 10 years. You know, when you decide to level up, you've got to change a few things. It's not all the time, but for this one, I did. So when I was looking at coaches and looking at how they operate, there was quite a few coaches that had followed me on my last page. And Alex stood out to me. His content stood out to me. You know, without even him needing to, there's been a few times where I've probably put a poll up regarding certain things. So whether it was like a nutritionist, I remember Alex popping up a few times and giving me tips or helping me in a few areas. And that stood out to me because that's something he didn't need to do. But it just shows that maybe from his perspective, he's already seen me as a good lifter. So whether he can help, whether I'm going to be a part of his clientele or not, that's how he chose to help me. So I always kept that in mind. And it was actually between dual coaching, Forge Strength, and Alex. And yeah, once again, Alex stood out more to me. I think Alex's content is interactive, very bubbly. It shows a side of my personality that I kind of resonate to. So yeah, I went for Alex. He was just the perfect match for me. And he's an amazing coach, very good coach. So yeah.
Yeah, I saw when you were with him. So I've always been self-coached, but in the back of my mind, I've always been like, if I was going to hire someone, who would I hire? And I mean, he's been around since before I started. He's been in the sport. He's been active in the sport for so many years. And you can see that he actually just cares about the lifters in the sport. So I definitely think good choice. And like you say, his content and everything, it does stand out compared to a lot of coaches as well.
Yeah.
And he makes things easily digestible. He doesn't overcomplicate things.
That's
for anyone that isn't sure who we mean, he goes by Peach Squats on Instagram.
Yeah.
Or Italian Barbell is the company.
Yeah, Italian Barbell. I think he runs that with somebody else. But yeah, he's PJ Squats on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. So I take it that means things are going well since you've started with him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on my second block with him, so like I'm only 6 weeks in with him. But so far, just the communication, the way he communicates, I like it. It's just simple, straight to the point. There's no beating around the bush. I like the honesty. And to be honest with you, based on my own personality, I can be quite technical. So I can give a lot more information than I need to just to explain a simple sentence. But Alex, so far, he seems like he gets that, and he just gives me a simple answer, and it's like, okay, I feel better now. You know, it's just easy to communicate with him, and I think that's the most important thing, because realistically, anyone can make a really good program, but you know, to have a good coach that's able to speak to you properly and work with you properly is the most important part. I'm also very surprised that you coach yourself. Like, do you coach yourself?
Yes, I always have. I am a control freak, I've discovered over the last year or so, and that is why I don't trust anyone else, because I know if I mess something up, it's all on me.
Okay.
I have thought about it quite a lot, especially I think this time last year I was getting into a bit of a rut because I felt like I wasn't on the progression I needed to be to get to where I want to be. So I kind of said to myself, you've got 6 months to prove you can do it on your own. If things don't get better, you're going to have to hire a coach. And my training over the last year has been the best it's ever been. So while that's going, I'm just going to roll with it. I might eventually hire someone. And like I said, I always keep an eye out if there's anyone that I think I would consider if I did get to that point. And I have to say, like, Alex is someone that's always been in my eye. Like, you know, I've known of him since I started in 2018. Wow. There's a few other UK coaches as well that have been around a long time that I think, trust. But yeah, I've just always done it myself. I like have control in my training.
And to be honest with you, to be able to do your own training, progress in that, and then also you coach other people as well. How do you juggle it all? How do you like balance the whole thing? Like,
I don't. No.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, wow, I didn't even know, you know. I thought you had a coach.
Yeah, I'm definitely a workaholic. I can balance everything, but I don't give myself enough downtime, which is something that I am kind of working on. But I actually think coaching other people makes me a better coach for myself, because when I'm writing someone else's program, like if like say I'm like planning their like progressions throughout a block or whatever in the loads for each week, I don't think about it from their perspective of like when I program for myself, it's I think I'm going to be too nervous to load that. I'm going to be too nervous to load that. But because I know that when I'm writing for someone else, I don't think like that. I then don't let myself think like that with my own training, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want to keep learning to be the best coach possible for my lifters. So with that, I'm learning to be the best coach for myself as well. I just have to take the emotion out of it, which is something that I don't think I was very good at when I was younger. But as I've gotten older, I've definitely gotten better at that.
Wow.
It's not easy.
No, that's sick though. It really is sick, because I know that to then be able to progress, because okay, example, Big C, he used to coach himself before, and I think it was going well until it wasn't. Yeah. And then I remember him saying, I need a coach. But I know before that he was coaching himself, but he stopped at a point where sometimes it's hard for you to be able to progress. So you're always at a standpoint. But I see that you're there hitting PBs on squats like nearly every week. But it's you like, that's sick, you know. I really, really rate that. That's really sick.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a learning curve.
Yeah.
But at the moment, especially, like I'm definitely more than happy that I probably wouldn't progress quicker if I hired someone else right now. At some point, that will probably change, or I might just fancy trying something new. Yeah. But at least know. And also, I save a lot more money this way. That's also nice. That's also nice. But we'll see. We'll see going forwards. The other thing as well, I think you have a nutrition coach now too. Is that somewhat recent-ish?
So I was working with Layla, and that was after Arnold's. So one thing that I would say that made Arnold's horrible is because I don't know, have you, like, I'm not sure, but I'm not sure if anyone else has ever felt like really, I just felt like a feather. Going into the comp, I didn't feel full. I felt fragile and weak. And then jumping on the scales and them telling me that I was like 102 at the time was a very, very big shock. But physically speaking, I could tell that I wasn't as full, and I didn't feel as strong. I probably felt more strong in my training than on comp day. And then I realized I did lose a lot of weight. I had like this issue with trying to cut before comp, just because I didn't know how to handle food in terms of I'd eat so much. And just because based on my genetics, if I do eat really, really bad for a long time, it does sit on my stomach a lot. And that affects my leverages. Obviously, being a deadlifter, I need the room, I need the space. So after the comp, I decided to then get a nutritionist. I was working with her up until Manchester Open. And she taught me a lot about food, the difference, and I'm always going to mention this, the difference of me eating just one pack of oats to just adding this extra pack. So I was doing a lot of things that I shouldn't be doing. I'm 5'10". I'm taller than some people's mans. Do you know what I mean? So
you're taller than my man.
Yeah. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, I'm a tall girl. So I wasn't eating to my height. I wasn't eating to the way I'm supposed to eat. So working with her had brought a lot of knowledge on food, which had helped me towards the competition. At the moment, I'm currently on a pause right now, until I'm going to pick it up again this end of this month, just leading into comp again. But because she's taught me so much already, I've basically just been following on the same plan. I've stuck on the same plan. I'm probably eating a bit more now, still using scales as usual, but I would recommend for anyone that's probably in a situation like myself that's a bit tricky with food. I mean, I love eating, but I just didn't know the right stuff to eat to get a nutritionist. One thing I really liked about working with Layla is she said to me that you could work with a nutritionist and you might decide to work with them throughout your whole career, or you might decide to work with them for half a year, however, whatever. As long as she gave me the knowledge that I need to be able to progress, that was her main priority. And I think she's done that. Yeah, she's really, really good. She really helped me as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think nutrition coaches are definitely becoming a lot more popular. I coach in nutrition as well. And one thing that I'm very big on is I want to teach people.
How many things do you do?
Too many. Now I'm starting a podcast.
Like, how many things?
Too many, but it's fine. I enjoy them, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, no, I do. Obviously, I limit the numbers I take on and stuff to balance everything. But my thing with nutrition is I want to make sure that I basically just teach people enough that they can obviously manage on their own. So that at the end of the day, I'm basically just there for accountability, because some people need that accountability year round, especially if you're trying to stay within a weight class. But then, like you said, like potentially picking it back up again, going into comp, you know, you've worked together before. She has the knowledge on you. You've got all the stuff that she's taught you. You've been doing what she taught you this whole time. Yeah. And then maybe just as a little bit of like for refeed or whatever after weigh-in, it could be just to have someone there to just tell you what to do for that last few weeks into a comp.
That's right, yeah.
Just ease your mind. Because like, again, that's one thing I do think if I do hire a coach, it's probably going to be a nutrition coach, purely so that I don't stress going into comps. Not that I need to, and I always make weight really easily. Yeah. But that's the one area that I think people don't realize how much nicer it is to have someone else to just tell you what to do. Yeah. With your food before comp, on comp day, just to get you through that day. Because I think that's an area that people do mess up with on comp day as well. Yeah. You've got to cut weight, obviously, but even like yourself, like you don't need to cut weight of comps. You're in the 84 plus. You still need your eating to fuel what you're doing for the day and feel your best. Yeah. Yeah. I think hiring a nutritionist is definitely becoming a lot more popular, and I'm glad that it is, because it does make a big difference. Definitely.
Wow. So how many clients do you have, nutrition clients then? And also, yeah, you don't really promote your nutritionist though on socials. You're more into the coaching side.
So at the moment, I also have a full-time job, but I hope my manager isn't listening to this, but I am cutting my hours soon. He does know this.
Oh,
I'm basically going to cut my hours down soon, so that I can then obviously take on more clients. Okay. So at the moment, it's doing everything, which is why I don't really advertise yet or often, purely just because I do have spaces, but I don't promote them because they tend to fill, and then it's like making sure I can balance everything before I take on someone else.
It's a lot of time.
So I don't work myself into the ground. Yes.
Wow.
But it's fine. It's fun. It's what I'm interested in as well. So it's like, I'm such a fan of powerlifting, and I just love the sport so much that when I'm talking to my clients about what they're doing, it's also fun and interesting for me. Like, so I don't mind doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I would always recommend anybody to go for a coach that loves the sport. Yeah. I know that, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about coaches that are just trying to grab some money, or everyone's just labeling themselves a coach. But that's one of the reasons why I went with Alex. He loves the sport. You know, I'm always like, he recently did the juniors internationals coaching there for them. To give your time just to fly out and to, you know, handle someone, it means a lot. So yeah, I would always recommend someone that loves the sport to go for a coach that knows what they're doing. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you can also tell, like, the coaches that are in it just for money, they don't last long, because there's not, until you get to a very high level of coaching, there is not loads of money in it. Especially, like, there should be more than there is, and I think it's getting better. But you're not going to be rich within 6 months of starting your coaching business.
But to be honest with you, there isn't really, unless I'm wrong, because I'm still new, but I feel like there's more male coaches than there is female coaches.
Yeah.
And especially being promoted as well. Yeah. I'm not sure why. I don't know, because I'm sure there is a lot of women out there that are probably coaching, but I see like there's a lot more male coaches than female coaches.
Yeah, so this is actually something I've had a conversation with a lot with different people recently. Like when I get a male sign up, especially for powerlifting coaching and full coaching, not just nutrition, I take it as a massive compliment, because I'm like, most men will only hire men.
Yeah.
And there obviously are more males to choose from. There are more men coaches in this. But I do think, like, when I worked as like a generic PT a few years, like before, I think it was like 2017, 2018, 2019, it took a long time for men to trust me to even teach them to squat, bench, or deadlift. Bearing in mind, I think I started competing in 2018, but I was already training like powerlifting before that. It wasn't until my male colleagues were like, no, she's probably the best one to teach you to do these things because she does them all the time, that they would then kind of trust me to do it.
Do you think because you're a woman that was the case?
Yeah, 100%. Okay. I think it's changing and it's getting better, but I just think as well, I might get hated for this, but I don't think when girls are growing up, they are taught to be as kind of, I don't know, assertive in what they're good at and talk about what they can do as well as men are. Like, I think men are taught to be confident in what they can do. Like, it's taken me a long time to be confident to even say I know what I'm doing. Like, for years, people would like local lifters and stuff would say like, oh, you don't know what you're doing, you need to hire a coach, And obviously when I first started, I didn't know what I was doing. But over the years, I've proved that I do, and I've progressed this whole time and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's only really been maybe the last 18 months that I've had the confidence to sit here and say that I do know as much as a lot of these other coaches do. But I just don't think it's ingrained in us when we're growing up to be like that.
No, I to be honest, I 100% agree. Even being in that part, you said, even being confident in what you're good at, it's like a taboo for women. Like, oh my gosh, don't shout too loud, don't say that too tough, leave it to the men or leave it to whoever to do that, not you. So yeah, man. I mean, to be honest with you, your work shows it, your work proves it. Sometimes you don't even need to talk too much. And that's why I always rate women that are doing stuff in the, I will say, male-dominated industry, because it's not easy. You're already getting side-eyed because you're here. So to then stand out and be good at it, I'm always going to rate it, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely getting better. I remember, it was probably over a year ago now, I heard another female coach say something along, because she works in person with people as well, and she works with a lot of male coaches, and it really resonated with me, especially from my days working in a gym with lots of obviously male PTs. As a woman, I'm never someone's first choice of coach, but I'm normally their last. Like, the service they get from all the men they picked, not necessarily just men, obviously, but from the people they picked first, isn't the same level of service, I think, as a lot of female coaches will give. But that's because the female coaches, I think, have had to prove themselves so many times.
Yeah.
They do tend to offer, not necessarily offer the best service. Like, obviously, a lot of males do as well. But if you get my point, like, that really resonated with me, that, you have to prove yourself. So I do think you have to prove yourself a lot more as a woman in this space.
You do, definitely. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's getting better, though. It's fine.
Yeah.
I guess the only things really left to talk about are what is coming up next.
Oh, so obviously we've got British, which is in about 10 weeks. So, as I've said, if you have a title, you're hoping to defend that title until, I guess you're ready to give it away. So going into British, I'm going in headstrong this time compared to the last one I just discussed. So there's British. And then, you know what? Alex asked me the same question, and I'll say this openly. If I'm put on an international stage or I'm put on a bigger stage, I'm always just going to be grateful for being there. But being part of this sport, for me personally, my goal isn't, I want to be on an international stage. That's not my goal. It's not like the be-all, end-all. It doesn't make me a better powerlifter because I'm on an international stage. For some people, it might be different. Obviously, going up and going into Sheffield, that might be, oh my gosh, but for example, if I can take being a powerlifter and I can go into other revenues, that's what I want to do. Powerlifting will always be there, as years have told. You're telling me you've been in here since 2017. Some people some people have been starting since the singlets were not the singlets now. So I guess the sport's always going to be there. But I would like to be, I would like my impact to be bigger than powerlifting. Obviously, still being in the sport, I still want to do my thing. Of course, I'm still here. Of course, I'm still here till I give people a chance, to get there. But I would like to be an athlete that impacts more than the sport. That's my goal. So whatever stream that goes down, I'm yet to see that for myself. Whatever deal or ways opened up for me, then I'd like to enter into that. But the be all and end all isn't just being on an international stage for me, because next year there's another new world champion. You know, it keeps going until it stops. So if I can branch out and be, I guess, somebody else or bigger in a different field because of powerlifting, oh, I'll be happy with that. I'll be very, very happy with that. A lot of people have asked me, or when I step out, oh my gosh, are you a coach? Are you a PT? Oh my gosh, train me. I've never thought I could be the type of person to be a PT or get the qualification to train people. But if down the road or I enter another path, and that's what I'm doing now, I'm teaching people my skills or giving people my personal private tips for them to be a good athlete, then that's what I'm in. And that will always make me grateful, and that will always make me proud, because I'm Aquinn. Yes, I started with a powerlifter, but I've branched off of this. So that's what's next. I guess it's not really specific. It's not down to one thing, but who knows? I don't know what God's got planned for me. So it just depends on where I'm placed, to be honest, honestly.
I think that is a perfect answer. I also think it's the perfect time for you to have that kind of mentality, because obviously international level, there's a good chance you're going to make Team GB at some point, if not next year, the year after. Like, you're one of the best in the country, and that would be an incredible opportunity. But powerlifting is growing so much that there's so much more to it than just being the lifter now. And that's something that I think I've learned a lot this year as well. My goal has always been to get a GB singlet for full power at some point, whether that's in 5 years' time, whether that's when I'm a master's, I don't know. But I think the last year or so, where I've shared a lot more of my own training and my own mindset and stuff online, I've had so many conversations with people just talking about mindset and mentality. And I think it's a massive conversation that people can then take into their own life elsewhere as well.
Right.
And I think one massive thing with powerlifting as well is like the confidence it brings you when you realize how physically strong you can be, how mentally strong you have to be to get through all the training, to be, and like the consistency and everything that goes with it. It does branch off into the rest of your life as well. Like, I wouldn't be anywhere near as confident as I am. Like, let's say I didn't start powerlifting and I just carried on down like the generic personal trainer route, I wouldn't be half the trainer that I could be if I didn't find something like this.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Powerlifting, that's what I'm saying. Powerlifting is more than just squat, bench, and deadlift. You know, the mental capacity you have to be in, the confidence you have to give yourself, the training, the hours in the gym. You know, days you don't want to go into gym, and you know you're like, damn, let me just go. That all it builds character, and you can take that into your workplace. You can take that into any establishment you step yourself into. So that's why I would like to be, I guess, more than just powerlifting. Aquinn wants to be more than just powerlifting, and I know that I'll get there. That's why I started, you know, putting my vlogs on. I've always been a quite open person, and always like sharing my journey in some sort. So wherever that takes me or whoever that inspires, I'm happy for that, because it's just more than them just seeing me collect medals and hang them on my wall. Yeah, that's what I aspire to be. So
I think that is the perfect place to kind of end things. If people want to find you on socials, where can they find you?
So it used to be Girl City Fitness, right?
Go into that story if you want.
Listen, so now it's Girl City Fitness 2, all in one word. That's on Instagram, and on TikTok I am Girl City Fitness, but I still am very, very active on my Instagram, which is Girl City Fitness 2. So yeah, find me on there, give me a follow, I follow back. Let's get chatting.
All right, perfect. Thank you for joining me.
No worries.
And everyone, go and follow Aquinn.